Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're talking about alerts and permissions within Function Point. Hi, my name is Sophia Wilson. I'm a part of the customer success team here at Function Point, and I'm joined by my lovely colleague, Jess Bird, who will be answering questions in the background today. Jess, just checking in. Can you hear me okay? Coming in loud and clear.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me. This is our first webinar together. I think we're going to have some fun. Should be good. Okay, cool. So let's go through our agenda. So to get started today, we're going to go through permission sets versus permissions. This is actually a pretty key thing within Function Point. So I'm really looking forward to discussing that. And anyone who has any questions, please, again, send them through to Jess, and we can answer those on screen or outside of the webinar. I'm also going to show you a few tips and tricks, just some items that have recently come up and I've noticed that I think just will kind of help with cleaning up some people's permissions and just ensuring that nothing's really slipping through the cracks. And then, of course, alerts themselves and just best practices around that for within your system. So looking forward to chatting about that with everyone. Next, questions. So again, I do have Jess answering questions in the back end of the GoToWebinar today. So Jess will be kind of going through all those, and if there's anything she thinks that we should discuss on screen, we'll definitely touch on those, as well as if there's anything more specific to your workflow and what you need within your system, we might need to organize a call outside of the webinar just to really dig into that for your agency specifically, but we'll make sure that all of that is addressed today. Next step, of course, there's still lots of ways to continue learning and advancing your education of Function Point. I think a lot of you are already pretty familiar with it, just looking at the guest list that we have today, but I will make sure that I point out just all of our additional learning resources that are available to you in our Help Center once we get into that next screen. And then actually, this is the last webinar of this series. So thank you to everyone who has been attending throughout the last few months and all the different product topics that we've been chatting about. We do have a new series coming probably in July is what I'm aiming for. And we're going to be taking a bit of a different approach towards our webinars. So really excited for that. And once all the details of that have been ironed out, I'll definitely be chatting with a lot of you and maybe even asking for some feedback. So if there's anything that you have always really wanted to see in some of our webinars, please feel free to email success@functionpoint.com. We're really open to all that feedback because we've been doing these webinars for a while and it's always good to do a refresh. So please don't hesitate. Feedback is very, very welcome. But let's dive in today. So we're just going to end this. So let's get started by talking about permissions. What I really want to start with is actually discussing the difference between permission sets and permissions. You have the ability within Function Point to control an individual's permissions directly on them, which is great. However, it can be tricky when later on you realize that another individual should have identical permissions to them. So that's why we've created the ability to create permission sets, and you can build those out depending on the specific roles within Function Point. I'm going to show you the two areas to go through those different items right now. So let's start by just looking at a single individual. So you would come up to Admin, Rate and Staff Management, Staff rates, and Permissions. You would enter the specific individual of their permissions right here. And this will bring you to the Manage Staff Permissions page. So you'll notice two options here. First will be to choose a permission set. So if you do have pre-built permissions in the back end of your system, and you've now just added in a new individual into your company, you can automatically just start by choosing the permission set that is already pre-built that you think would be appropriate for them. However, at this stage in the game, you can also come in here and pick and choose different items that they may or may not need. So if you need to make customizations for Isabel specifically, you could do that. However, I will let you know that once you have made changes like that, that will remove them from the permission set that you originally put them into. So you won't be able to make changes and apply those to other people later on. So anytime you're about to remove someone from a permission set, just take a second and think, would this actually be appropriate for the other individuals in this set to actually be applied to, and make the changes at the permission set level rather than the individual. So it's just a good thing to kind of think about while you're going through these. Now, to actually build out specific permission sets, that's also in our admin area. It's admin, rate and staff management, and permission sets. So this is where, again, you can create and build out those individual items to apply to the different roles within your agency. So it's a three-step process. It's actually choosing the permission set. So you can either choose to create a new one, or you can go through and pick an existing one and make changes to that. Now, I'm in my demo system right now, so there's quite a few more permission set options in here. But there should be some, if you're new to Function Point, some already pre-built that we've just noticed that traditional agencies usually use. And so we have pre-built those for you just for as you're getting used to Function Point itself. So those are available to you, but everything is editable. If you don't like what we've created, you can get rid of it, you can change it. The world is your oyster back here. Now, I'm actually going to play around with our account executive permission set today, just because I did make some flaws in it that I'm going to point out to you so that we can actually fix those on screen so you can take a peek. So now that I've chosen this specific permission set, you can now add and edit the permission set itself. So we've got that set name. What we do recommend is actually label it by, again, the role within your agency and who you would want to apply it to. We find that that's a good way to go about doing things. However, I have also noticed individuals labeling it like it's absolutely everything except for the AE permission, which I will be pointing out shortly to you as well. Yeah, whatever naming convention works best for you, but we usually do, by best practices, recommend the role at the agency. Then after that, you can come through and actually pick and choose those permissions themselves. Everything will be broken out mostly by module, and then of course the administrator options, but then you can expand everything and pick and choose those individual specific items within that module as well. So it does take a while and it can be overwhelming, but take some time, come through here. If you have any questions while you're doing that, again, feel free to reach out to your success manager. We're happy to help with that. And then, of course, actually adding and removing the staff from these permission sets as well. So you'll notice that on this account executive permission set that I've created, we do have all of our designers actually on this, as well as all of our account executives. So anyone checked off would be the individuals that are currently holding or sitting on this permission set for you. Now, I have already pre-logged in to someone that is holding this account executive permission set. It's actually Jess Bird. I figured since I have you on with me today, why not use you in my demo system? So the first flaw, something that you're going to notice immediately once you log in, is that the main navigation bar is gone. So this can actually be a pretty common item that I see with people that have just joined Function Point, or as individuals are making changes to their permission sets. This is just something that tends to kind of get lost, I guess you could say, but it does happen. So if you've noticed that your navigation bar is gone, definitely reach out to your FP Prime within your agency because it's very easy to fix. So let's start by fixing that. And that is all underneath the view modules here. So you'll notice that in these permission sets, everything, again, is broken out by the different modules, but all those individual items are actually the functionality within those modules. But where you'll need to make sure that you can actually view the modules is underneath this area, and that's on the main navigation bar for you. So just by default, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click absolutely everything because I do want Jess to have the ability to see everything, but I'm going to also remove, actually, you know what, I'm going to leave that for now, and actually, you know what, I'm just going to take it off now. What is quite common is just like in regards to reporting, that a lot of managers will want their team to have the very minimum basic reporting within the system, which is kind of those find and list views, but not access to the reports module itself. So I'm going to just unclick that, so Jess just won't even be able to access the main reporting module within the system to start. So once you click submit, that should automatically save everything. We'll just bring Jess back over here. We'll refresh her page. And you'll now see that her nav bar has actually popped up here. So everything is now available to her within these different modules. And then she does have access to the admin section of the system, but not the reporting. Probably best practice, you'll also want to remove the admin ability as well, just so that she can't actually see that. Something else I see quite regularly is a lot of accountants not necessarily wanting basic users to see invoicing. So we do have the ability just to remove that invoicing option so that there would never be any mistakes of them accidentally creating an invoice, but you could still give them the ability to see any invoicing financial data. So if they ever needed to see that on the job financials page, they would have that ability. Okay, cool. So I'll just quickly check in with Jess. Jess, any questions or concerns popping up at all as I go through this?
Nope, you're obviously doing a good job. Nobody has any questions.
Oh, thanks, Jess. Okay, cool. So now the next couple items that I wanted to point out is in regards to financial items themselves. So you'll notice that when you sit on a job or estimate, actually, no, let's do a job. Is that when you're underneath this job financials page, you have it broken out by all these different items. Now, within the permissions, you can actually pick and choose which of those items are viewable. So you have the ability to choose if you want them to be able to view estimated items, cost items, actual items, invoice items. So that is all broken out. So depending on you at your agency and what you want people to be able to view, we have that control. Now, those permissions are actually living underneath the admin section of these permission sets. So again, I'm going to continue editing that account executive item. And maybe I'll quickly show you just in that demo system of what that looks like when you can't view it underneath this dealership signage. So underneath the financials, you see that we can see the quantities in regards to hours, but we don't have any of the actual financial data in here. So we want them to be able to see that as account executives to know where in the budget they are with their jobs. So all of that is now living underneath our admin section. And again, everything is broken out here for you. If you want people to be able to add or remove expenses or any items like that, that is all listed there. But what we're looking for today is the admin show actuals, show estimated, show invoiced amounts, and to show the rates. So the rates actually do feed in. If someone's not allowed to view what a rate per hour would be, the system's not actually going to calculate it for it. So to have the most effective financial reporting, giving them these four is really key. So again, we'll just submit that quickly, and it will save automatically. We will refresh this page for Jess. And you'll now see that on that dealership signage page that she has access to all of that now. So something I see commonly removed is maybe how much you're actually invoicing for this. You just want them to be able to view the estimated versus what the actual dollars are. So you can pick and choose there, but again, just making sure that they have the rate option, and usually the estimated option is what I see most commonly. So again, pick and choose what you're most comfortable to show financially. Of course, I'm a huge advocate for the more transparency, the better. It'll just really help build trust with your staff. So really, the more you can show them, the better. But of course, definitely showing them cost is maybe something you want to remove, which I will also show you momentarily. Now, the next item I'm going to show you, and I'll just keep Jess's system open here, is something I get asked quite frequently is in regards to the AE dropdown when you are creating an estimate. So you'll notice here that it's different from other items when you are picking a staff member and it has all of your staff available. So the AE dropdown is actually a permission itself. It's a way of signifying to the system that this person is an AE, and we want them to show up in this dropdown. And there's actually a lot of reporting and just kind of items in the system that are very connected to being an AE. So that's why we have that more in the permission side of things than just kind of opening it up to everybody. So I'm going to show you where that one lives next. We'll just move this out of the way. So with this also lives underneath the admin section of the permission set permissions. So it's just this admin AE permission right here. So that one, again, you pick and choose who actually needs to be labeled as an AE or that you would need to report on being an AE on jobs, and you can activate that permission. Submit that. We'll save that immediately. Just refresh this page. And now you'll see that everyone that lives within that permission set, not just Jess, are available in this drop-down to be used as an AE on the estimate. Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, so we've gone through the reporting. That has been removed. However, of course, Jess still has access to the find and list views, which is key. Now, another quite commonly asked question that I get in regards to permissions is on the accounting and invoicing side. So this is hugely connected to the FP accountant and being able to export invoices and expenses from your function point system into QuickBooks. So these are also permission-based. Again, I usually see maybe 1 or 2 people within an agency that will actually have these permissions. So I'm just going to quickly point those out to you. So when it comes to the external expenses, those live within the invoicing and accounting. Nope, sorry. They live within the reports and data export. So the expenses export to accounting. This is where that permission will live for you when you need to access this. And then, of course, the second item being invoicing lives underneath the invoices and accounting, the invoicing export to accounting. Now, I know that this is a little bit confusing that they're living in different places. That is something I have mentioned in the past, and I do hope to see kind of just made easier organization wise within here. So you might notice that they get moved, but for now, this is where they live underneath the invoices and accounting and the reports and data export for you. Perfect. So the next item, let's go into like some of the main items that I see, and that is actually the salary and wage info. So, you know, you may be a fully transparent agency. You want everyone to see what your rates are, what you're charging clients, even what people are, their rates are specifically for their time being tracked, whether or not they're a junior or senior member of the team. But you don't want them to see their salary. You don't want people to be able to see what the cost is for you to have those individuals working at your agency. Now, of course, when you input your costs into the system, we do recommend it be the hourly salary of the individuals with a percentage of the overhead, so you can account for that. So it's not like someone would see that hourly wage specifically. However, it's still an extra financial column that most people I see remove. So that actually lives here under the salary and wage info. And you would just want to remove these. So first is the admin of the show hourly wage. So that is on that job financials page that I showed previously, and it would show an additional column that would show the cost for you. And then, of course, the payroll report itself. So just removing those so that no one can see those is huge. I see quite frequently permission sets that are created. Actually, I think this one specifically is all but AE. This is actually removing the AE permission that I showed you previously, as well as that salary and wage info as well, so that those individuals are unable to see it. Now, this is something that I think I noticed maybe about a year ago, and so it's something I now actually encourage a lot of clients to take a look at as well, is that, so in this scenario where we've given every single staff member pretty much complete control over the system, except for seeing the salary and wage information, is they can still come in here and actually edit what their permission sets are. So, you know, if you have any cheeky individuals over there that maybe would come in here and be like, oh, I know I can actually edit my permissions, so that means I can edit it to show myself that hourly wage. We can actually remove that so that people can't actually edit their permission sets themselves. So that lives underneath administrator. And then it's just, oh, that's the alerts. And then it's this subscription management. Oh, sorry, it's the managed prescription sets. Here we go. We've recently added these 2 new ones. I'm not sure who has had the opportunity to check it out, but you do now have the ability to actually add your own additional licenses throughout the system. That's probably more at an admin level that people need to know that. But to actually do the permissions themselves, what we need to do is add in the admin update permissions and admin menu manage permission sets. So if there are, again, individuals, you want them to have full access, but not the salary, and you want to make sure that they're not going to come in here and edit their permissions themselves to be able to see that, just removing those two permissions from them will just kind of give you that extra layer of security. So I always recommend that for everyone to check out. Okay, great. Now I'm going to jump into alerts next, but I will just quickly check in with Jess. Jess, any questions, concerns? Is there anything that maybe you are frequently asked that would be good for me to show?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. The main ones that I had were around the showing the financial information, as well as how to list that person as the AE in that drop down. So you've covered that, and there are no other questions.
That's awesome. Yeah, those are definitely some of the pretty major ones, at least people coming directly out of onboarding. So, you know, if later on just something isn't working for you and there's just little things that you're wanting to make sure are removed, again, reach out to your success manager, and we will definitely try and find you the best permission set formula that we can. Yeah, definitely here to help. So we're going to go into alerts next, and something I always like to point out that's actually a permission item to help with alerts is being able to give your staff the ability to actually manage their own alerts within the system. You know, everyone is different in how they like managing their schedules, their checklists, their alerts. Something actually that we were even talking about internally the other day is it doesn't really make sense to have alerts if there is no action to follow that alert itself. For myself, I just don't really see the point in having alert if there's no action for myself to follow that. So that's just something that I thought I would kind of mention today. So everyone could definitely have different ideas of what they would need to action depending on the alerts that are coming through. So to give that alert permission, again, it lives underneath here, underneath the admin section, and you'll see admin manage my alert subscription. So that's just going to open it up for individuals to be able to, and I'll show you where that lives, to come in and manage that themselves and make the changes that they would need. Of course, you also have the ability to manage others' alert subscriptions. That probably wouldn't be something you'd want to enable. I don't know if you have any jokesters in your office that would just give every single alert to drive someone mad, but it is possible. Who knows? We work with a lot of creative agencies, and I've heard some pretty good stories about some internal behavior before. So as long as you've allowed that, people can come in, and it actually is just directly underneath a contact. I'm actually going to find a contact this way. I'm going to go, again, we're going to keep using Jess here as my example. Go underneath Jess, and you'll notice subscriptions here. So subscriptions is where alerts live. Now, similar to the permissions, you do have the ability to also create alert sets, and again, it's a very similar idea where it's the alert sets versus the alerts. You can create sets depending on specific roles within your agency and applying those to those roles, to start, and then allowing them again to manage their subscriptions themselves if there's changes that they would like to make. But it is also the same behavior that if you are removing someone from their alert set, they will be removed from that and kind of living in their own sort of alert area now, and you can move them back to sets if you need, but it's not quite as easy to know what the original one might have come from if you do choose to do that. Now, with the alerts, again, it's broken out by all the individual modules within the system. Come through here, take a look. I'm not going to dig into each one individually because it is quite large and it is a lot to cover. But there were a couple little items that I did just want to touch on today, just in how things work. So for jobs specifically, everything is based off of the alias of the job status that you would create. So as most of you know, you have the ability of renaming and customizing your job statuses, but all of those would hold an alias in the back end of the system of open, invoice, completed, or closed, or hold as well, actually. So that is how it will be shown here. The other item I want to show is if this I am a job contact. So you can actually take these alerts and just filter them slightly more as well. If someone needs to be alerted for all new jobs that are being opened within the system, there might actually be a project manager that needs to know every single job being opened, which is great. We have the ability of adding that just as a general alert. But there might also be someone who they don't need to know every single job being entered. They just need jobs that they are an actual contact on. And in the example of adding someone as the AE on those jobs previously, that will automatically make them a contact on a job. So this is something I definitely see regularly used for an AE, where maybe they've gone in, they've labeled themselves the AE, they've created the estimate, it's now been approved, and a project manager is actually opening that job and creating a schedule to go with that now. So that's a way of showing the AE that now that piece of work that they brought into your agency is actually getting started on. So you can filter that down to show all open jobs, but only if they're a job contact, rather than giving them every single job living within function point. I know some can have hundreds of jobs living in here that are open at a time, so it can definitely get overwhelming. The other item I should point out is that there are two ways of sending alerts within function point. There's either send an alert, which will give the red dot to your clock up in the top right-hand corner of the system, or sending an email. So that will send an email to whatever email you have active against your contact in function point. So you'll notice with Jess here on the basic info that the email address, right here. I'm just a little bit blind today, I guess. The email address is living in here, but if that is empty, it's not going to send an email for you, or if it has been misspelled, it could be sent to the wrong individual. So just making sure that those email addresses are correct so that those come through. And then, of course, we have had cases where the function point email is going to junk mail. So just making sure that it's on your whitelist with your email provider so that everything is coming through correctly for you. So those are the two items that are really key. Again, making sure that you pick and choose what ways you actually want to be alerted, making sure you have the correct email address against against your contact information. And then, of course, again, when you're looking at all the individual alerts themselves, taking a look at whether or not you need to do this extra layer of filtering as well. Now, something that our support team regularly experiences that I really wanted to touch on today as well is that with the way the alerts are coded to work within the system, is that once you have added in this alert, so say in a scenario, we have an individual who wants to be alerted on all jobs that are being opened within the system, and they haven't filtered it down by this job contact quite yet. They've actually only filtered it to just get an email with every single open job. And then they start to realize, I did not want to be alerted to every single open job. I really only wanted to be alerted about jobs that are relevant to me and that I am a job contact for. So you can come back in here and make the change to this alert. However, if there are any jobs that have already entered kind of the alert queue, so because they were created before that alert was changed, later on, when they're open, they will still actually come through as an alert, just based off of kind of the lineup of the alerts and how they're living. So if you notice that after you've made a change to your alerts, if it's not working immediately, it could just be a part of the development of function point, and that it's just needing to run its course, and it shouldn't be more than just a handful of them that are coming through. So don't worry too much, but if you do want to reach out to us here at Function Point, we can just double check in the back to see if that is the case and that something isn't broken, because we do have the ability to check that out. But that's just something I always like to point out, that there may be kind of a few straggler alerts coming through just based off of when those items were created and when the alert itself was changed. So just something to note. Now, the last alert item that I think is pretty cool and I always like to point out is this global alert. So this is actually an email. It will only be sent as an email. It won't be sent as an in-system alert. That actually, when you log into Function Point at the start of the day, it will send you an alert that kind of gives you a status of staff timesheets and tasks that are assigned to yourself. So it's kind of a cool overview for yourself to, for myself, I've used it to make sure that I'm actually on top of my timesheets. So if there's any days that I've maybe missed, I actually can see I forgot to put in timesheets from Monday, and I can go in and do that. And of course, an overview of your tasks if for some reason you don't have that living on your dashboard when you first log in as well. So it's actually a pretty cool item. And even for managers, you can get an overview of all of your staff as well. So, you know, to stay on top of who maybe is behind on their tasks or who hasn't tracked time. Again, all of that information is accessible within Function Point itself if you don't want this email. But I do know of some people that I work with that quite enjoy kind of the review to start their day without needing to click around within Function Point a little bit. So that was everything I really wanted to touch on. Again, this section is quite large. And probably, again, my one last piece of advice is the fewer the better to start, just kind of giving the very bare basics and the bones of what you think individuals need as alerts. And as time goes on and you get feedback, add those in just because of that kind of queue kind of item. And I know for myself, if I start seeing red or receiving too many alerts, I just get overwhelmed and I stop looking at them. So the fewer the better to start, and just making sure that really only what is needed is what is actually programmed in here, and giving individuals the ability to pick and choose their own alerts so that they can be in control of that is also just a best practice that I recommend. Now, before we log off, again, I'm just going to check in with Jess. Jess, is there anything you want to add? I know that you really talk with people directly coming out of training, and is there any commonly asked or requested alerts that you think we should point out?
No, just to highlight what you've already said, and you know, the majority of people that I talk to request that the email notifications be turned off for the majority of things, only wanting to see things like, you know, anything that may be in relation to new jobs or anything that has some sort of an approval process in place. But other than that, nope. And there's no other questions that have come in from anybody on the line.
That's great. Well, then, you know, we've had a really great and kind of quick webinar today. We will stay on the line for just another couple of minutes in case there's any last minute questions anyone would like to throw out there. But again, if, you know, later on tonight you're like, I wish I had asked that, feel free to email success@functionpoint.com and we can help you with that. Or again, if there's anything specific to your workflow that you just would love to chat with someone about, we're here to help. So I hope that everyone enjoyed today, and I hope to see you in the next round of webinars. And yeah, happy Wednesday, everybody.